Hello, all you beautiful people out there. I hope you're all doing fantastically. I hope you all had a great month of the year. The first month, I hope you had a great reading month. I had a special reading month, you could say. I read only like 3 fantasy and it was just all over the place because I went to DragCon and I got so inspired by like all the fashion there, all the aesthetics, all the gorgeousness, all the personalities, and so my reading took a setback because I was just so like wrapped up in this whole thing, and I've been watching like all the episodes of RuPaul's Drag Race again. It's been a hit. It's been a blast. So I did struggle a little bit with my reading this month, but I still got in some good reads. So let's get started. So the first book that I read this month was The Vegetarian by Hong Kong. So this was a very special book. I read this because of Ariel Bissett and the podcast Books Unbound, where she talked about it, and I just felt really inspired to pick it up. So it's basically about this girl who has this dream that we don't really know what it is. It's some kind of like vicious, violent dream about animals, and she refuses to eat meat, but her husband thinks she's crazy and he treats her so badly, all because she turns vegetarian or vegan, you could say. And this is translated from Korean, and you can definitely tell that it is a lot about reflected in the culture in Korea. And I also know this because I have like an Asian family, and everyone thinks it's really weird to be vegetarian, even though they do eat a lot of vegetables and stuff. I feel like a lot of the culture is centered around meat, and it is also in Western culture and other parts of the world. I think meat is very important. I mean, me myself, I'm a vegetarian and I try to be a vegan, but it doesn't always work out. And so this was kind of like a touchy subject for me. I felt like I was very affected by this book because she eventually kind of goes insane because no one understands her, no one respects her choice. Everyone kind of pressures on her, but it's very interesting because you never follow her perspective. You follow 3 different perspectives throughout the story, so it's divided into 3 different parts. And you follow her husband's perspective, her sister's perspective, and her sister's husband's perspective. And that makes it really interesting. It's kind of like reading a classic, which it also says it's like a modern classic on the back. And you can tell. So I'm glad I read this, but I think I only gave it 3 stars because it was hard for me to read. It is very well written, but yeah, it's just not very enjoyable, you could say. After that, I read this book. This is Hear the Wind Sing / Pinball 1973, I believe, by Haruki Murakami. It was a while since I picked up one of his books, and this is kind of the first 2 books in the Rat quartet, and I know they don't really have that much in common except that the character, the rat, is kind of present throughout all 4 books. And in this one, the Hear the Wind Sing is his first ever book, and you can definitely tell. I mean, he has been writing for 40 years now, and if there was an improvement after 40 years, it would be kind of weird, right? So you can definitely tell that he has improved as an author, but it was really interesting to see where he came from. He started writing when he was 29, 30, and I think the main character is around that age in this book. And you basically get to follow these 2 characters called the rat and the main character that I don't remember the name of, and they basically just hang out at this bar and drink beer all day. And it's a very like melancholy, matter-of-fact type of book. Not much happens. He tells you about all the girls he's slept with or had like interest with, and in the first one and in the second one he gets obsessed with finding this pinball machine, and that kind of goes into play later in the story. So it's a very like piece of life type of story, but you know Murakami, he's weird. At one point there's a talking radio that talks to the main character, which I loved, and there's like minor illustrations in this, which I thought was really cool. Murakami has something special, and I gave this, I think, 3 or 4 stars. I really like it, even though it is his first books. Something that I didn't like about this one is it kind of jumps back from different points in time throughout the story, and I found it kind of confusing to know in what era things were happening. I mean, you kind of do understand, but it takes you a minute to like digest it, which I hate when you have to do that in books in general, but I did really enjoy it. It's Murakami. It's my favorite author. After that, let's get into some fantasy. Let's talk about this book. This is Tower Lord by Anthony Ryan. It's the second book in the Raven's Shadow. The first one is called Blood Song, And in this one you get to follow 4 different types of perspectives throughout the story, and the chapters are very long. So what happens is that every chapter ends on like a cliff note almost, which makes you want to read on, but then you have to go through 3 different perspectives before you get back to that chapter, and sometimes the chapter can be 30 pages, so it goes like 100 pages before you get back to the perspective, and then you forget where that person is and you have to go back and you have to, oh okay, the person is there. So that was kind of like a miss for me, because even though all the perspectives were interesting and I felt that all the characters were well-rounded, even though they were well-rounded, I just want to say, even though they were very well-rounded, I felt like I couldn't connect with any of them, which is kind of a problem because I think they were supposed to be likable, but I didn't really like any of them. I definitely felt for some of the characters. They have really good representation. There's definitely trigger warning for rape and animal abuse in this, and it's very dark fantasy. I feel like I'm going in like, I don't even know where the sentence started. Oh man, Wilma. So this book is written by a Scottish author who has a degree in medieval history, and that is definitely shown. Nothing throughout the story is particularly original, but it is very well written, and it is a page turner. Like, you're constantly wanting to know what's gonna happen, and I'm never bored when I'm reading this, and I do like this series, but I felt like I've read a lot of books that are kind of like it. I am over this whole like medieval there we go, medieval fantasy. Like, I don't want to read no more Game of Thrones shit, stuff like this. After the Wheel of Time, I feel like it's kind of in the same category. I don't, also kind of the Lord of the Rings. I don't know, but I just find like it's a used up concept, and I understand that the author should, maybe I shouldn't say that, whatever he wants to write, and that should be okay, but I just don't want to read any more of it. To be honest, I'm gonna finish this series, I'm gonna finish the Wheel of Time, I'm gonna finish the Lord of the Rings, then we are finito. We'll see. Hopefully I'll just read some new stuff and I can get back into it. I don't know. Do I have anything else to say? Also, something I wanted to add is that it has a ending where I think there's supposed to be a plot twist, but I didn't get it. I don't understand the plot twist. I don't understand what happened at the end, which makes me want to read the next book, but also I'm still confused. Alright, let's move on. Then I finished listening to the audiobook for The Gender Games by Juno Dawson. I have read a lot of Juno Dawson's, a few, 2 books. Let's not exaggerate, Wilma. A few books by Juno Dawson, and I find this book really interesting. This is a non-fiction that basically talks about the 2 genders. So Juno Dawson is a trans woman, and she talks about kind of the different genders, and it says on the cover, the problem with men and women from someone who has been both. And I do think the story goes into that. I think it's very funny, like when she talks about her childhood, and there's a lot of funny anecdotes and things that she's gone through, and I feel like it's a very informative and important book. I think I gave it 4 stars. I did really like it, but she definitely talks a lot about media, and I understand that media is a big part of gender, on life. Like, we're all consuming media, putting media out there, like, it's very important. But I felt like when she talked about like Bowie and importance of like gender bending and stuff, I was kind of not as interested. I mean, I'm all for gender bending. I think it's like the brilliance of the 21st century. I think it's awesome. I love it. It's really cool that we're all doing that now. But in general, I liked it. I don't remember that much. It made me think about a few things, about the roles we put on as men and women, and what we see as a strong woman and a strong man, and just things. It's very interesting if you're interested in like that whole thing. After that, I picked up a random book in the bookstore just because I thought it was interesting. So this is Made Things by Adrian Tchaikovsky. I've only read Cage of Souls by him, which is a sci-fi. This is a fantasy, so it's a little bit different. It's also very short. And before I start, I want to I want you to look at this cover because it's amazing. You don't even know this yet, but these are actual real-life sculptures that this artist has made, and I'm going to put the name of the artist on the screen because I went and followed him on Instagram. I think it's a him. And what? Oh my god, I was so inspired by his art. Like, it's just all these like small figures that he makes, and it's so intact with like the story, but this is just a picture, which I think is so cool because I was like, whoa, this looks so real. It's so cool. I love it. So anyhow, in this one, it's like you follow this world where the main character, she is kind of like a con artist, but she's also a puppeteer, and she makes like regular puppets that she can do like puppet stuff with while, you know, she steals stuff and all this kind of thing. Coppelia, is that her name? But then she also has these small friends. So these are, oh my god, I'm gonna say this word wrong, homunculi, you know, small humans. Someone mentioned that they think this looks like my tattoo looks like a homunculi, whatever it's called. And it kind of does, so that's kind of funny. But these small creatures are basically like small humans, like tiny humans, and they help her steal stuff. And there's so many different types of them. You have the ones that are made of like wood, metal, fabric, paper, and they're all made of different things. And they kind of do know that they come from this High Lord, but they don't know so much about where the other creatures are. So that's the story. And then she gets in trouble with the government and blah blah blah. But I did have a lot of issues with this book because the first 40 pages is basically like a huge info dump explaining the world, explaining the characters, and there are so many characters for such a tiny book. I feel like the characters could have been cut in half and it would have been much more enjoyable. And on top of that, it feels like it's a middle grade story, so like what's happening is very simple, the plot is very simple, and you can follow along super easily, but the language is almost adult, and there's like weird references and things that shouldn't be in a middle grade. So I feel like it's like at a weird point, like I don't know who this book was written for, and I think that's okay. I find it fine, but I just didn't have enough time to get invested into the story, into the characters, because it was so short, so info dumpy, so many characters, that I was just like, by the end of it, I was like, okay, let's just leave that on the side. Yeah, I just wasn't invested into the story. I think I gave it 2 stars. I was very disappointed. Then I picked up a book that kind of went by surprise. I mean, I was planning on reading this book because the 4th book is written by Catherine M. Valente, which is an author I really like, and that is the Minecraft novels. These are 4 books so far, and there's more coming out, and each book is written by a different author. So this one was the first one in the series since I decided to go from the start. This is The Island, and it's written by Max Brooks, and this book caught me by surprise. I don't know why I like this so much. I really liked it, okay? Because what happens is that you start with this girl, you don't know, it's just a person, you don't know what gender this person is, or how old they are, or anything of their life experience. You have absolutely no knowledge of what this person did in its normal life, but this person, I'll call them, wakes up in the middle of the sea, basically realize that they are in the world of Minecraft, but they don't know what Minecraft is or like the game or anything, so they have to survive in this world and learn the rules from scratch because there's so many things you can and can't do, just like we know the rules of the world, but it's just much more adaptable. Like, we know how to grab something, we know how to create certain things, but this is like, to create new material, they have to do like completely new things and discover new ways of grabbing things, like just something so simple, how you survive, the fact that they don't die, and all these things. And it's just, oh my god, it is so good. The thing is that one person is the only character throughout this whole story. And I have to say, I've never read a book where the main character or one person is the only person in a story. Like, that is so weird to me, and I realized that when I was reading this. And just the way that, in a way, it's a little bit repetitive because they're trying to survive and they're trying to, you know, solve all these issues and come by. And you don't really know what it leads to or why they're doing this, but there's just a lot of good reflections. I feel like there was a lot of good reflections on humanity, and he talks to the animals, which I found really funny, and he kind of like has a conversation with them where they like talk back, which was cool. There's like zombies in this, and I just want to put a disclaimer out there. I've never played Minecraft. I know what it is, and I know of it, and I know how it works and all that, but I've never played it, so I don't know, are there zombies in Minecraft? I know that this author has written another book that is like a zombie book, so maybe he wanted to put zombies in the book because that's what he's interested in. I don't know, but all in all, I recommend this. It was interesting, and it was super easy to read. The language is very easy, but also very good. I don't know why. I can't even explain why. It was just different. So after that, I read Adventure Time Volume 3, and this was so good. I like the other two volumes, I was like, I love it because it's Adventure Time, but this one I really loved. So the first story in this is like choose your own adventure story. Yes! So you have all these options. Wait, I'll see if I can find a page. Like if you choose the different colors, you can go like different paths. So there's like 4 different versions or something, or even more, of like where the world goes, and it's so cool. I read all of them. I like went back and then I choose another option, and they're all as interesting. So no matter which option you choose, it's gonna be like a great story. It's just so cool. And then the rest of it took kind of place in this video game as well, which was kind of good because it was like helping me calm down from the whole Minecraft hangover. Yeah, but the best part of all these Adventure Time comics are definitely the cover art in the back. I don't know why they do that, but at the back of every Adventure Time there's all these cover arts for this particular version of the Adventure Time comic, and they're so good. I love looking at that. I'm like reading the whole thing so I can like look at it in the back, like a kind of like a little treat. But all in all, like this was the best Adventure Time comic I read so far. After that, I read a manga. This is Battle Royale Angel's Border. So I read Battle Royale last year, and it was my favorite book of the year. It was so amazing. I was like amazed by it, and this is kind of taking place, if you read the book, you know there's a part where these 5 girls are situated in like a tower. Water tower? That's not the word. What's the one with the light? Light tower? Sounds weird. Light tower. And they're all in there, and then this book kind of follows like the drama that goes in between the people, as well as some history from before. There is actually like a gay representation in this, which caught me by surprise, which I really liked. But all in all, there was a lot of repetition and things I feel like I really didn't need to know about the story. So it's not a must read, but if you like Battle Royale and you like the characters and you want to get into it, I recommend reading this like straight after you've read Battle Royale. But it wasn't really like a great addition. Like it was like a 3 stars. Then there's 2 books that I promise I'm gonna read every single month from now on, and it's 1 edition in the Wheel of Time and 1 classic. So let's get on with the last 2 books on this list. This is A Lord of the Rings, and yes, I know this cover's shit. I don't know why I have this cover. It's so bad. It doesn't say anything. This is like a vacation book, right? Like, what? But anyways, I read this. I didn't like it. It was so annoying to read. Like, objectively, I understand why this is a classic. I understand why people like it. It has a lot of commentary on society, about genders even. I mean, they're all boys in this story, and just like I felt like it was a metaphor for a lot, and the way you could analyze it, and especially understand why people do it in schools, I get it, and I like that, but I just did not enjoy reading it whatsoever. It was such, in Swedish we have this word like jobbigt, which basically means like it was work reading it, and it was just So, if you don't know the story, it's about this plane, I think, that crashes, and there's only like a class of school boys, and they all have kind of different ages. I got the impression it was from like 6 years old to 12 years old, possibly a little bit older, and they basically have to survive on this island all by themselves. And this main character, Ralph, he takes control and he says, okay, I'm the chief, or they all vote him chief because he's the oldest, and he says, okay, we have to light a fire, because if we don't have a fire, you know, no one's ever gonna figure out we're here and save us. And it just spirals out of control. Like, these two gangs are created, people go like savages, and shit happens, and there was a lot of moments I really liked. I really liked the scene where the title was included into the story. It was a really nice scene, and I loved the ending. The ending was great. I almost laughed, like it was so good, but I still gave it 2 stars because I did not like reading this. But I'm glad I did, because now I know what everyone's talking about. And the last book that I read this month was The Dragon Reborn by Robert Jordan. This is the 3rd book in the Wheel of Time, and all in all, it's probably, I think the first one was my least favorite, but ranking them, this is like my 2nd least favorite, or 2nd favorite, I guess you could say, if you want to be, you know, half fool type of person. So in this one, I don't know how to explain the story because it's such a long series, but you get to follow these 3 guys who are basically Tavaren, they say, which is chosen in a way to, like, the universe kind of, how do you say that, revolves around whatever happens is gonna happen. And I really like that about Wheel of Time, where the Wheel of Time is all about how there's been loads of different ages and loads of different time periods, but history is always kind of repeating, but with the different people and different stories in a way, but what happens is meant to happen. And I find that concept with Wheel of Time really interesting, and in a way that these 3 main characters they're lucky, I guess you could say, but also different things. It made it very convenient because all of a sudden all of the main characters are in the same city and they always miss each other by like this much, and it's a little bit frustrating. I feel like it's a little bit too coincidental, it's a little bit like too good to be true, but at the same time, if this book didn't have any of that, it would be so boring. So, all in all, I thought I would struggle with the characters because everyone was telling me there was a lot of characters in these books, and this one was actually the easiest of all 3 of them. I feel like I'm really getting into the story. I'm enjoying reading them much more. It's much easier to pick them up and not feel dread. I feel like I have a really low standard of what I want from a book. But yeah, I actually really like this now, and I'm excited to start with the 4th book. I've heard it's really good, and I'm not so scared anymore. I got, like, I knew all who the characters was, and my mind was, like, in it. Yeah, I'm excited. Whew. My voice is, like, I'm kind of sick, too, so. This is, like, a representation of everything that's, like, inside my throat right now. Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Comment below if you read any of these books and what your thoughts were on them, or what books you guys read this month. I would love to know. This month was weird. I read a lot of weird books. I hope you enjoyed. So, I will talk to you guys soon. Have a great February, and bye!